You start the new canto, is it? So here is the issue. Issue has many meanings. Here it is, I think, both the theme in a kind of a compact form. What is the theme of the whole long poem, as well as the problem, difficulty, because it's an epic is always centered around a kind of a conflict. In fact, every story, there have to be two different elements, and here this is the main conflict that she has to solve. It ended in the first canto that she was preparing herself to face death. That's what the first canto ended with. Now she knows it is going to happen today. She has prepared herself actually for a whole year, because it is a year since she was told by Narad that on such and such a day Satyavan must die. Exactly the year, one day, a year from the day when she came back to tell her family that she has met Satyavan and she will go back to the forest with him, to live with him. So this is the theme, this is also the problem. A while, withdrawn in secret fields of thought, her mind moved in a many-imaged past that lived again and saw its end approach. That is again the role of memory. That whole year and the experiences that she has lived during this year, which today has led to this last day. The more she came closer to that date, the more the intensity of love increased, and the intensity and the knowledge of not the loss, because she is not going to accept the loss, but the resistance, the decision that she will not accept to be conquered by death. Death is coming closer, she is not going to give in. So her mind moved in a many-imaged past, all the experiences of this year, that lived again and saw its end approach. Dying, it lived imperishably in her. That is the role of memory. You live what is over, but it lives inside you. If you can hold on to those experiences of the past, you can move into the future. But if you have lost the line, the course that along which you have been moving, you have no direction for the future. So she has kept completely alive inside her all the incidents, all the experiences that has made today, where she is now, real. But the past is not dead. If you can make use of the past in order to move into the future, it becomes the foundation for a new life. Though it is dead in a way from the surface world of visible existence, the past is gone. But the past lives inside us. Time is subjective, time lives inside you. Time doesn't live outside you. She is living in the world of inner time, transient, and vanishing from transient eyes. But hers are not transient eyes. Usually the past vanishes from transient eyes, and memory is very short for people who usually limit themselves in small fragments of time. The past is something, often you have to give it up. You have to give it up. There's no point in being attached to the past. You can make use of it as a kind of a stepping stone, or you might say a preparation to move forward. So one has to remember the things that have shaped us, that we have gone through, and often those experiences are difficult, sometimes they are beautiful, but those are the experiences that mold and shape the person so that he is ready for the present and the future. It's not a question of being attached to the past. That I don't think is very helpful. But to make use of the past in order to prepare oneself for what is going to happen today and tomorrow. Because it's one continuous journey. Our life does not start fresh every day. In a way it does every day. But it is also a continuous journey that has been really prepared from a long time, and then we move into the future. Dying, the past is dead, yet it lived imperishably in her, transient and vanishing from transient eyes, invisible since it's no longer there, a fateful ghost of self. It's a very vivid image because it is a ghost since the past is dead. But the form and the memory remains, but the real substance of the experience is over. And yet, it prepares the future. That's why it's fateful. It prepares us for what is to be. It bore the future on its phantom breast. This is the paradox of time. Time doesn't exist. The only moment that exists is the present. The past is no longer there. The future is not yet there. The present is over before you have finished talking about it. And yet, that is the only field of experience that we have. That is the paradox. Time exists, or does it not? Space is objective. Space is outside you. Time is inside you. If you are not conscious, for you there is no time. A person who is totally unconscious or in coma doesn't feel the passage of time. A very small child, a very little child who is not conscious yet, is not yet a mental being, doesn't feel the passage of time. He obeys the needs of the body. When we become mental beings, we take up our journey, conscious journey, and that journey starts from within. Time is the field of experience in which we are expected to move. Time and space, we can't exist outside time and space. Is time real? That is the whole question. It is not, and yet it is. That is why it's a ghost. It is true, or is it not? Because I am today the result of what all the years I have been. It's a good result or a bad result. That is what my fate will decide. According to my actions, my decisions, my choices, I arrive at a final culmination. But this is what has sometimes made certain thinkers and sages say all this is illusory. There is no such thing. Only the eternal is real. All that exists in time is wiped away by time. Here today and gone tomorrow. But tomorrow is born out of today, which tomorrow also will go away. This makes us ask questions. Need we really attach ourselves to the experiences that we go through in time, or should we give up all these things and simply live in eternity? We turn only to the eternal, timeless, transcendent consciousness and move out of our relationship and connection or attachment to the world of time. Then why have we been given this world? Why have we been given these experiences? There must be a reason. There is.
So that we run away and never come back.
Sorry?
I'm joking. So that we run away and never come back.
But is it only to run away? Yeah, I know. But is it only to run? That is what some have done. This is what you're saying is the answer that certain.
Okay, I got it. I found out about it. Let me go to eternity.
You go to the eternal, but then it is as if you have been told this is something that is simply a gift which you have to
enjoy.
Throw away. Don't be attached. Throw away these experiences that are given to you in time and just move into the eternal. Then this is a worthless gift. It becomes maya, it is illusion, it is or delusion. You are mistaken. You think this is reality. No, this is not. Everything here passes. But is it only for that? This is a question Sri Aurobindo repeatedly asks. Is it only to make us realize that we have to give up this world, the experiences that we go through in this physical world, which seem to pass all the time? They are never steady, never stable. To give up this, we are expected to give up our attachment to the surface ignorance, yes. But there is a truth behind, within. It is perhaps this that we have to find out. In the core of every riddle, there is a kind of a deeper significance. Time is a riddle. There is a deeper significance which we have to find. Savitri has prepared herself. This is fundamental to Sri Aurobindo's yoga. It is not by giving up this world or life in time. It is by giving up the attachment to the surface consciousness and the ignorance. Then we can have knowledge. So she is now actually plunging within, trying to find the significance of this truth that had been told to her by Narad. She's going through it in the past. This whole year, all that she has learnt, all that she has gone through, all that she has acquired. So she's moving backwards. We think life, we have to move forwards, yes. But you can't move forward if you have lost your way. You have to know the road you have travelled in order to travel forward. So she is now moving in her mind through the past. Along the fleeting events' far backward trail. Every moment is fleeting. And yet there is a kind of it's like there are stones and pebbles, but put together they make a road. She's moving backwards. Each moment is prepared by the previous moment. This moment was prepared by the previous moment and goes back to the origin. Regressed the stream of the insistent hours. Not progressed, regressed. She's moving backwards. The stream of the insistent hours. Because time does not stop. Time keeps on and on and on moving. And as she's moving through her own personal life of the past, she sees all the things she has gone through, all the people she has known, all those who have contributed to making her who she is today. And on the bank of the mysterious flood, this is time. It's a strange river. A non-existent, or is it some kind of a spiritual existence? Or because if it exists inside you, time exists inside you. If your mind doesn't function, time isn't there for you. The time is perfectly subjective. If you are real, time is real, because it's there inside you. And yet time is not real outwardly. It's always going away. The present moment hardly exists. It's replaced by the next moment, which is again replaced by the following moment. So this is the whole mystery. Also to suggest that this evident surface life of ours, this superficial world of physical experiences, perhaps is a mystery. There is a deeper significance behind everything. Nothing is what it seems. Everything is much more than it seems. So on the banks of this mysterious flood is river, peopled with well-loved forms, because they are on the banks of the river. On either side, that is, companions of her life. Earlier, people as a child, her family, her friends, all those that she grew up with, well loved at that time, now seen no more. And the subtle images of things that were, because these images have become, they are no longer solid. Subtle means so fine that it has hardly any body. So all these forms, shapes, they're all associated in the world of memory. Memory really is not something that is dense, solid, substantial. And yet without memory we cannot really, our minds cannot move forward. We have to have that connecting thread and the link that makes us take decisions for the future. And yet it deals always with the past, and the past is over. Again, this sense of mystery. This reality and yet the unreality of things that we have gone through. Today's reality is prepared by yesterday's reality, and yesterday's reality has become subtle, so fine, almost non-existent. She is looking at herself, at her life. Her witness spirit stood reviewing time. And here is the consciousness. She's really looking at her own personal life in a completely quiet, undisturbed manner. The witness consciousness. The witness is that aspect of our nature which is, you can say, it is usually described as the Purusha, the Sakshi Purusha. The witness looks at any event and doesn't take part in it, watches, doesn't interfere, doesn't judge, doesn't guide, just watches. There is a detachment, there's a quietness, and yet it sees everything. This is something we can all have. We do have it. Even on every part of our being can be divided into two. You can try it any time. You live, you can watch yourself live. One part in you watches yourself being you. That part that watches does not take part in you. It just watches. It doesn't approve, it doesn't disapprove, it doesn't interfere, it doesn't guide. That's not its role. It just watches. But what it does, what it is that part is free. That witness is free from the incident. Does not suffer. It hasn't taken part in the action. Therefore, there is a certain freedom that the witness consciousness always has. It's unaffected by the experience. And yet, it is inside us. So we can really separate ourselves from ourselves That part that separates is not affected by what's going on in our life. Life is a play of all kinds of forces. The forces that help us, the forces that harm us, that push us this way and take us that way. And there's one that doesn't move, is not disturbed, simply watches, and has perhaps not even an opinion. When you watch, sometimes you have an opinion and you say this is good or this is not good. But the complete pure witness does not, even if it may have, I don't know, it doesn't express. It doesn't judge. One thing that our mind loves to do is to judge everything. The witness doesn't judge, it just watches. So from the point of view of that witness consciousness, there is nothing bad, nothing good, nothing difficult, nothing less difficult, nothing painful. This is how things are. So she is watching. One part in her being, and the most profound witness is your inmost consciousness. You can have a witness in your mind, you can have a witness in your vital. It is more difficult because the vital is extremely active. But if one part in the vital can detach itself, it can laugh at itself if you like. It doesn't take part in all the passion and emotion and disturbances. There's another level. You get caught up in all the experiences, and there's a level that doesn't bother you. You can watch your body, as Mother has said, go through experiences sometimes of pain or happiness or strength. And you can also, she uses the phrase, cut the connection. Just cut the connection. That part in your body is not participating in whatever is going through your body. That is how you can sometimes, especially when experiences are painful, there is also the possibility of not being affected by the pain. This is there in every part of our nature. But the central witness is inside our spirit. It is immobile. It does not act. It is not Prakriti, it is not active, it does not take part in the experience. So she is preparing herself for the most important day of her life up to now, in that state of absolute inner quietness. And that's the way to prepare for anything.
You called it Sakshi Purush.
Sakshi. Sakshi in Sanskrit is witness.
Witness.
It's the witness.
The connection with the vital.
It's very difficult to have the witness. You can. It's rare. The yogis have to try that. That's what they do. It's more difficult because the vital is a sea of turmoil usually, of energy. It is possible because there's a consciousness present in every part of our nature. There is the force and there is the consciousness. Force is active, consciousness is not. It's completely quiet. There is a vital consciousness that can watch your vital, sometimes make a fool of itself. Very often the vital makes a fool of itself. And there is that consciousness that is completely independent of that. It doesn't get affected. It doesn't tell that other vital, you're making a fool of yourself. Don't do this. Don't get drawn into these things, in anger, passion, hate, or whatever. It doesn't guide, it just watches. But it's like a kind of a room inside your vital which is untroubled. When we are really in difficulty, there is a place in our nature, you can look for it, where you're totally undisturbed, untroubled. It doesn't affect you. In every plane and part of the being, there is consciousness and there is force. Here the witness spirit is the central consciousness. There is also a central consciousness. That central consciousness is the witness. Okay. She's just watching, reviewing time. So what does she see? All that she once had hoped and dreamed and been flew past her, eagle-winged through memory's skies. Mind is usually compared to the sky. Memory is that which really connects this moment with all the past. So all that she had hoped and dreamed and been, they came, they went. Unless you have a hope and a dream, you can't proceed really in any direction of your choice. So she has chosen for herself a path. What that path is will be told to us later, but any conscious being chooses a path. If you are less conscious, you just survive. Everybody who wears a body and is on this planet is not truly a very living being. He just is, he exists. Many exist, but there are a few who are truly alive. When you are really alive, you have chosen a path. Otherwise, you just move, pushed by time, pushed by circumstances, totally unaware. That is perhaps the larger majority, unfortunately, and that is the dead weight that is pressing earth down. But she was not of them. So all that she once had hoped and dreamed and been flew past her because she's left it far behind. Eagle-winged, because that has prepared her for today. The power, the eagle, through memory skies. As in a many-hued, flaming inner dawn, the consciousness is growing. Her life's broad highways and its sweet bypaths. It's a very pretty line. Everyone has the main journey that he makes along his road, which is your highway. But there are also little bypaths. Here and there you stop to pluck a little flower of pleasure or an enjoyment. That is normal. You have a wonderful road, but you also have moments where you are not really rushing along the road. You stop here and there for. This is what man does. He makes his life more complex, more varied, and it adds to the totality of the richness of the experience. It's not a singular life, it becomes a much richer life. So all the joys, pleasures, happinesses lay mapped to her sun-clear recording view. This is the witness. Sun-clear, not shadowed by preference. All of us, when we look at ourselves, we try to give the explanation that is most, you might say, all least painful for us to accept. So we find good answers for our own behavior and things like that. But if we are sun clear, no shadows, you see things for what they are. That is really the way to look at life. You have to see yourself to what you are, and you might find that what you are is not pretty inside. Well, that's the beginning of change. You say, yes, I know I am this, and I have to stop being this. Then you can look at what you can be, because you don't approve of what you are. But if you are always finding excuses and explanations for your own weaknesses, then your vision is not sun clear. It is overshadowed by ego, by preference, by likes and dislikes, and you don't see things for what they are. This is the way we are mostly. So we find It is because of this person or because of that circumstance or because of this happened. This is why I wasn't. It isn't my fault. It isn't my fault. It isn't my fault. When I'm asked about these things, it never is my fault. It's everybody else's fault. It's not a question of fault. Actually, it is just to know this is how things are. If I accept it, then only can I move on, break out of the present to something else. This is just a recording view without preference, without judgment, like someone who takes down simply the notes of what is perceived. Total objectivity, impartiality, no ego, no preference. You see how much he packs in just one phrase. From the bright country of her childhood's days. Yes, this is both bright country. She grew up in a beautiful land, at the foothills of the Himalayas. The tall mountains and forests and rivers and trees, and also surrounded by love and luxury and parents who doted on her and everybody who loved her. So the sense of she knew no pain, she had never had any difficulty, whether they are inner, because she never had to really fight for anything. As a child, it is as if life gave her everything that could be given to her. So here in one line, her entire childhood, simply bright country. The outward bright country, the emotional brightness, the joy, the peace, the harmony in which she grew up. And then the blue mountains of her soaring youth. Not just the blue mountains at the back because of the height of the tall mountains, which is the part of the kingdom of her father, but also the sense of aspiration, climbing. The mountain is the aspiration of the earth, climbing skywards. We also, as youth is that, is the time where you want to climb, find out that which is beyond your reach, to reach up to things that are at present impossible. That is truly one of the most important aspects of youth. To break boundaries, to rise up, to find things that one has not yet found. And so she soared. And also later it will be told, it was often perhaps symbolic that many of the schools where teachers trained the students, and she was in one of them, she was trained as a boy. It was part of the tradition that when a king did not have a son, the princess was given the entire education that would be given to the future king. So she got training in all the subjects that was really given usually to the king to be. So everything was taught to the king because he had to learn all that his subjects were. If a king is a king of everybody, so he has to know what everybody does, whether you are in the field of war or a field of finance, a field of philosophy, so the king was taught everything, the prince. His day was very long. Everything was taught to him so that he could really be one who could oversee the welfare of his nation and his people. So really you have to soar. And they were, symbolically, these schools were situated in the mountains, high up, not on the ground floor. Like saying you have to rise. So that is where she also grew up, in her youth. And then, once her schooling was over, she went back to her father and said that now she is ready to look for the companion or the partner with whom she will fulfill the goal of her life. And her father knew her very well and said, yes, You're ready, you go. So she got onto her chariot and crossed the lands and plains and valleys, and at the other end of maybe the Indo-Gangetic Valley, from the narrative point of view, she was from Madra, and she found Satyavan in the land of the Shalvas, also a land which is at the foothills of the Himalayas. And there in the land of the Shalvas, in a grove, she found this man. She didn't know who he was, she didn't know his name, but she knew he was the person she had come so far to find. Without knowing him, she knew him. And that is love. You don't have to know any external details. And that is when this earth becomes paradise. And it's a very beautiful land also. So the paradise grove is not just because it's a land of beautiful flowers and birds, but it's also as if there's a kind of a burst of joy and harmony and an inner unity that came. And the peacock wings, that is the burst of many moons of color and richness. Life became beautiful. And it is very, again, suggestive because life was beautiful, no doubt, with him, but it was not rich outwardly. She lived in the forest in a hut. But for her, it was a palace, better than a palace. Because it is the peacock wings of love. To joy clutched under the silent shadow of doom. After having found Satyavan, she came back to her father's house to let him know that she has found the person. Before she would go, after that she would go back to Shalva. But first she had to inform her father. And it is absolutely on purpose that Narad was present. It was not that he happened to be there, he came purposely there to be present on the day she returns back to Madra and to inform her that this day returning Satyavan must die. 1 year from today. And therefore there is a great disturbance in the court, and the mother says, then this boy is already married to death, you find somebody else. And she says, once my heart chooses, it chooses not again. If he must die, I too know how to die. But I am stronger than death and greater than my fate. That perhaps is the line where she realizes that she is not just a very wonderful young woman, she is someone who is more. To be able to say, I'm stronger than death and greater than my fate, because fate will come, but to be able to break the, you might say, the wheel of fate, one has to be greater. And she is aware of that greatness within her. So this love carried in her and brought in her the knowledge of the greatness that she represented. She becomes Savitri that day, the true Savitri. Until then she was just a very beautiful, wonderful, exceptional girl. It's not just, but still. That day she is no longer a woman, she's a divine power. She always was, she becomes aware. Now we all are that, that's the whole mystery. We all have that divine essence in us, which is also covered over by many layers of surface ignorance. In her there was this certain element of covering. That covering was torn by Narad, so that she can look into herself and say, joy clutched, I will hold on to this love, no matter what happens. Doom will come, let doom come. I will not allow it to conquer my love. So this strength, she is also a warrior princess. It is knowledge, it is power. She is also a force. In a last turn where heaven raced with hell. That is today. This battle between love and doom is going to take place today. This was the day when Satyavan must die. So there are 5 stages in the journey of her very young life. 12 passionate months led in a day of fate. She has lived 12 months with him, preparing herself for this day, strengthening her inner being also, because death is no mere enemy. It's not a small matter. It's a universal force, a power that seems to say this whole universe is my food. I take everything that is made, I unmake. So passion is not simply just intense emotion, but it is the intensity of suffering as well that strengthens her and says, this will, because of the pain that is promised, I will overcome it. We have to know great difficulties before we can say that I will not bow down before this difficulty. If we have never faced a difficulty, we don't find the need to gather strength inside ourselves. We need the strength, but before that we have to have the knowledge of the difficulty. She had this knowledge, so it took her a year to prepare. This is the book of Yoga, book 7. This is giving us a summary. Now after this, these few lines which are very important. This did not happen only to her. This is the day she became Savitri. This can happen to all. There is a moment of extreme, intense experience that can make us aware of truly who we really are and what we can be. An absolute supernatural darkness falls on man sometimes when he draws near to God. An hour arrives when fail all nature's means, forced out from the protecting ignorance and flung back on his naked primal need, he at length must cast from him his surface soul and be the ungarbed entity within. That hour had fallen now on Savitri. Usually we live in our surface souls. Here, surface soul is not the soul, it's our surface individuality, which we really identify with, ourselves with. You say, this is who we are. And the inner real spirit in us remains undisturbed. It doesn't come into play. We are not aware of it. We therefore proceed along the path of evolution slowly. It takes very, very long for the change of consciousness to come, because we are dragging our feet on the roads of time, moving slowly. Then suddenly the moment comes, a blow, a shock, a pain where you feel it. No help, no one, nothing, darkness, no hope. That's the moment when you have to look at the strength which you have tried to neglect or ignore, because we really try to ignore that inner being as long as we can. We realize that deep inside me is the strength. The solution is inside me. The solution is not outside. But this is only for those who have arrived at that stage of their evolution when they are ready for the next step. Until then, nature lets you proceed quietly, slowly. She's not in a hurry. Nature is eternal, she says. As mother has said it in the class, la naturelle n'est pas pressée. She takes her time. She takes her time, man takes his time, you go through this life after life, moving very, very slowly, sometimes moving, even falling back into the old ways, not old ways in the sense, the earlier consciousness of beast and stone. We don't really always emerge from the beast very quickly. I mean, beasts are very beautiful, but man has been allotted another role. The beast doesn't evolve consciously. Man has been given the privilege of evolving consciously, choosing his path. But we don't choose. We decide not to. We just allow ourselves to be pushed along. But there are few who have chosen, the few who really want to proceed forward. Those few often meet with the extreme difficulties. The most extreme difficulty, we were just talking about the exhibition in Sri Aurobindo's, about Sri Aurobindo. The extreme, he himself speaks about it. He had to be put in a jail to find Krishna. He could have done it elsewhere. But it is as if his life was being, he was everything. He was Krishna himself. But he allowed himself to be taken over by the flow of time. He took him time to proceed along the path of yoga. Even when he was shown how to proceed along the path of yoga by Lele and others, he got caught into politics and nationalism and so on. And then it's as if the force said, now it's time. You have to find your real self, who you are. You are this being. You are the cosmic divine. It is something that happened to him. Ours, we don't have that. We are not of that stature, nor are we of that level of consciousness. But in a smaller degree, this happens to all those who are sincere in their aspiration for something else. When your sincerity is very strong, you will find the difficulty becoming more strong also. It goes together. All nature's means seem to fail you. All nature's means, your mind or the help of anything else, your own character, your own willpower, nothing seems to come to your aid. Your friends or your prayers, nothing seems to help you. I want you to help me, please help me in my difficulty, I am in trouble. No one will help you. He must cast from him his surface soul. Ignorance had been like a sheath that protected this being from the touch of darkness. That ignorance is torn, and you have to be your naked self. We wear the garb of ignorance, we wear the garb of ego, we wear all sorts of things. All this has to be torn out from us. We have to be the true self that we are and be the ungarbed entity within. That hour had fallen down on Savitri.